Welcome, everybody, to our top 10 players of 2019. A couple notes here. Sorry, this is a late video. Probably could have come out at the end of December, but we're doing it mid-January. That's fine. But a couple notes. One player per team is the way I like to do this, because otherwise we would have, all three energy players or three vitality players taking up most of this list. So I didn't want to include them necessarily. I wanted to reward at least the best player from the best 10 teams in 2019. 2019 was a wild year for Rocket League. A lot of parity where we could literally argue about picks 1 through 3 or picks 7 through 10. Like, all these picks could probably flip-flop a little bit because results were a little bit muddied for literally every single team. There was no quality team throughout the entire year in terms of winning. We saw Energy late get 2 titles, but that's about it. And one of them was in the basement. So do we even count it? I don't know. But let's get into it for our top 10 players of 2019. We will start at number 10 with Kassio. So Kassio did some amazing things. He took 2 different rival series recently promoted teams and brought them to the World Championship. Back in Season 7, that was something that never happened before. So Triple Trouble, they made it in, along with Barca as well. Kassio, we finished 4th in Europe for Triple Trouble, and then they finished tied for 5th at the World Championship when we had 8 teams going through Day 3. So maybe not as strong as Season 8, where with Veloce, they finished 3rd in Europe. They actually got the auto bid through league play, and then they lost in the semis, and then they finished tied for 5th at the World Championship once again. But again, there was only 6 teams that made it to Day 3, so a little bit more prestige there. DreamHack Pro Circuit didn't really do much there, though. Tied for 17th in Leipzig, tied for 9th in Valencia. He also didn't participate in WSOE, didn't participate in RL Summit. So while he had quality results in RLCS, didn't really have anywhere else. And the other thing with Kassio is he wasn't the number 1 player on his teams. I feel like he was a great support player. It's like a great maybe number 2, maybe possibly number 3 on some of these teams. It depends how you want to argue it. But he got the job done. He got the results, played really well throughout the season. So that's why he got our number 10 spot. My nose is stuffy. Moving on. Number 9, Speed. The tires for hire. One of the best rookies this year for sure. He opened it up. We'll start all the way at the bottom there with the WSOE champion with the bricks in his very first LAN, I believe, as well. So that's where he began his journey. In the RLCS, it didn't go that well for Speed. It's kind of the complete opposite of Kassio, where Season 7 with the bricks, right after they win WSOE, they finished 7th in Europe. Then they got number 2 in promo, so at least they stayed in the RLCS. Then they switched over to Mouse Sports, and he finished 5th in Europe. And we all remember that they lost 4 in a row to the 4 teams that all qualified off of the Mouse Sports team. So that wasn't fun. It should be a lowercase m. Sorry, Mouse Sports. But again, like if you're a team and you want to not capitalize your name, it just seems kind of weird. So I'm not blaming me. I'm blaming Mouse Sports. Anyway, the real highlight for Speed this season or this year was the DreamHack Pro Circuit. He made it to every single Day 3 and on many different teams. He tied for 5th at Leipzig. That was with the bricks. Then he tied for 3rd in Valencia with the bricks as well. It's kind of weird, though, because they were changing players in and out. That was when they had a lot come over and join with the bricks. Then he tied for 5th in Dallas and Montreal with Mouse when he subbed in there. And all these rosters, I can't even remember them all because I keep forgetting exactly how this all worked out. I believe the Mouse Sports roster was Tigre, a lot, and Speed for Dallas. Montreal, though, was when they switched over from Bricks to Mouse. So it was the same team there with a lot and Cooksier. But he did it with different teammates throughout. He had Mystic, a lot, Cooksier, and Tigre. He brought them all to Day 3s. One thing about Speed, his offensive presence has always been fantastic this entire year. We saw that a lot at WSOE as well. That's his main strength. We probably want to see a little bit more out of him on the defensive side of the field. going forward in 2020, but he had a really good year. Again, the tires for hire with that DreamHack. Beautiful performance. Not many players can say, or even teams can say, they made it to day 3 in all 4. So hats off to Speed there. Next up, Alpha 54. So some people might have Speed ahead of him, but I think Alpha, he might not have the results, but just the ability on this guy. So good. In Season 7 with Barca, he finished number 2 in Europe, and he got the League Play MVP. Well, maybe not rightfully deserved. I feel like Scrub Killer probably should have won it, but still, number 2. That's still good enough. They finished tied for 5th at the World Championship, though. Kind of a disappointing performance there. At Season 8 with TSM. Finished 7th in Europe. Not fantastic. They did finish 3 and 4, but they won the promotion tournament. But a lot of people said, like, Alpha was really trying to carry TSM to get them to a top 6 spot. He played pretty well. Like, on the MVP voting, like, I don't think he finished top 3, but there was votes for Alpha, and that is unprecedented when a team doesn't even make playoffs. That's how good this kid is. DreamHack Pro Circuit, tied for 3rd at Leipzig. That was his very first LAN. He did a fantastic job there. Then tied for 5th at Dallas and Valencia with Barca. And then tied for 9th at Montreal with TSM. We kind of rag on TSM a bit in that Montreal performance, but they finished 9th. It wasn't that bad of a performance, but again, a lot of it was Alpha. And Alpha was one of those players, again, like, I think maybe not surrounded by like as much talent as probably most of the other players on this list, but he got the job done, man. Like, he did as much as he possibly could on these teams. Now going forward, at the time of this recording, he's technically not on Vitality yet, but like when he joins Vitality, oh boy, if he's surrounded by 2 other amazing players, like, Alpha could easily be number 1 in 2020 for sure. Moving forward, we got Jknaps on G2. Jknaps, like, an up and down year for sure for G2 in general. But I gave Jknaps the nod over probably Chicago because of just sometimes he can just carry this team. So Season 7, they finished 3rd in North America. They finished number 2 at the World Championships. And Jknaps put up more goals plus assists per game than every other team at that World Championship except for Vitality. He was putting up insane numbers. Now, maybe he had some questionable defense. Like, he wasn't perfect, but he was putting up amazing offensive numbers that we've never seen before at the World Championship. So got to give him a nod for that. Then Season 8, not a great season. We all know that for G2. But when it came to the promotion tournament, Jknaps, he reopened that knapsack and just absolutely showed that he was the best player by far in that promotion tournament. It was something like 23 goals in 12 games or something crazy like that. It was absolutely nutty by Jknaps, and that's why he gets the nod. And maybe even a higher spot because of those 2 performances. And I know one's a promotion tournament, so it's not as strong. He also had some other strong finishes throughout the year with DreamHack. He tied for 5th at Leipzig, tied for 9th at Dallas, tied for 9th at Valencia. Those 2, not that great. But number 2 at Montreal is a pretty good finish. And then 3rd at WSOE and 5th at RL Summit. So they were in the mix. Like, G2 was in the mix most of the year, except for obviously that very disappointing Season 8. But Jknaps is one of those players, man. I feel like it's Jknaps and Shawset are the 2 players that can just put their team on their back and get them a title. We'll see if Jknaps can do that. Like, G2 is one of those teams in this year, 2019, of this year of parity, where they didn't get a title, and that was pretty surprising. So we'll see if G2 can bounce back in 2020. Moving on. Number 6, Squishy. It's Cloud9, very similar story to G2, where great Season 7, not a great Season 8, but all across the board, Cloud9 had a pretty good year up until the end. So Season 7 finished number 2 in North America. They finished tied for 3rd at the World Championships. They lost to Vitality. We could argue that G2, Cloud9, and Energy pretty much finished exactly the same at the World Championships just because they all lost to Vitality. And so Like, you could argue anywhere in there for those teams. Season 8, obviously not great. Finished 7th in NA, but number 2 in promos. Lost the G2 there. But the DreamHack Pro Circuit, they won DreamHack Dallas. Gimmick got the MVP there, but we'll talk about why we give it to Squishy in a little bit. Tied for 5th at Leipzig, Valencia, and Montreal. So this was a weird year for Cloud9 where a lot of people were, like, down on them because they didn't finish top 4 finally. Like, they had this amazing streak of every single land they go to, they finish top 4. Well, this year kind of ended that at these dream hacks where they kept losing in the quarterfinals. But hey, they still made day 3 at every single dream hack. And I think people forget that because they're just kind of disappointed by Cloud9 because they didn't finish top 4. They didn't do more. It's like they won one of them and they finished the day 3 in all the others. What more do you want from this team when everyone is bouncing back and forth throughout 2019? So that's why Squishy gets my number 6 spot. Tied for 3rd at WSOE as well. Or I'm sorry, they actually got 3rd alone, I believe. Or 4th. Wait, no, WSOE is fine. Never mind. Like, I'm thinking of RL Summit. They got 4th at RL Summit. But Squishy gets the nod. Like, it was kind of back and forth between him and Gimmick. But I think Gimmick, while he had a strong early start of the season, or the year, with the DreamHack Dallas MVP, and he played pretty well in Season 7. Season 8 was probably the worst we've ever seen from Gimmick, and that kind of made him drop off a little bit. Squishy, like, I felt like he was trying. He was trying his best to put this team on his back in Season 8 and get them at least into a playoff spot. It didn't work out, but he's always been consistent. He's always been like right behind Gimmick in terms of like who's the best on Cloud9. So in Season 8, with him trying his best to claw them back into it, I gave it over to Squishy instead of Gimmick. And again, they had a great year outside of Season 8. And people will forget that. People might want to argue maybe Jknaps higher than Squishy. Could go either way there. But I think it's because of the title of the DreamHack Dallas that I give the nod to Squishy just a little bit better. Also, just better DreamHack performances across the board. Oops, we're going the wrong way here. Number 5, ViolentPanda. So ViolentPanda is probably another one that people kind of forget about throughout this year. Season 7 with Jknaps didn't really work out for them. They finished 5th in Europe. But again, with how disappointing Jknaps was, they still finished 1 spot outside of the World Championship. So they still almost made it. Season 8 with Tig finished 4th in Europe, but obviously they really stepped it up at the World Championship. Looked like a top 3 team easily. Finished tied for 3rd at the World Championship with one of the best series we've ever seen between Jknaps and Vitality. And then the DreamHack Pro Circuit. Let's not forget, they won DreamHack Leipzig, Yukio's first tournament with the team way back in the day. They tied for 3rd at Dallas, tied for 9th at Valencia, so they missed out on one day 3, and then tied for 5th at Montreal. Then WSOE tied for 5th there and a 3rd at RL Summit. So across the board, pretty good results. They got a title, or at least ViolentPanda got a title as well. But I felt like Season 8 was one of those seasons where ViolentPanda was really trying to keep this team together throughout league play, while Astral was trying to figure it out, while Yukio was trying to figure it out. Then when we see those pieces start picking it up, ViolentPanda was still there, still performing extremely well. And let's not forget that ViolentPanda, he also was the one who picked up Astral, who picked up one of the best players that we saw at the World Championship. So, I'm excited to see what Jknaps does in 2020 because I think this team can just get better. It's tough because I feel like their World Championship was so much different than their Season 8 performance that it's like people are going to expect that. And, like, they can only get better, but I think it's more of, like, their average better. Like, I think Europe's going to be a little bit nutty. So I'm not expecting, like, guaranteed top 2 or even people are saying number 1 because Vitality's making roster moves. But I do think they will make it back to the World Championship at the beginning of 2020, and then we'll see what they do from there. But pretty good year for ViolentPanda. And again, I feel like ViolentPanda, Jknaps, and Squishy, you could probably alternate them depending on how you see where they should be. But I give ViolentPanda number 5. Probably because of the recency bias a little bit with that 3rd at the World Championship, just because of how good they looked compared to the Cloud9 3rd place, where they kind of got beat up a little bit more by Vitality. But we'll keep going backwards. We'll keep going backwards. We're going forward. We're going forward. My voice is dying. Always. All right, Chaussette, 45, number 4. We talked about him a little bit earlier with the Jknaps effect. Well, Chaussette did that this year. We saw it in the regional playoffs in Season 8, where he was just like, I'm going to beat Vitality by myself. We saw it at Valencia, where he's like, I'm going to win this tournament with a brand new car by myself. And there's no other player like Chaussette right now that can just be like, all right, I'm going to turn it on, and like, you guys just cannot stop me. We saw it at RL Summit as well, where Chaussette was pulling off amazing plays. But it was a good year for Rec. It could have been better. And I think, like, you could blame Chaussette a little bit, where it's like, oh, he looked a little quiet here or there. But it can't always fall onto Chaussette. So that's why I give Chaussette number 4 here. But let's go through it. Season 7 with Rec, technically PSG, but I'm just I'll try to make it easier by the most recent team name across the board. Finished 3rd in Europe. They finished tied for 5th at the World Championships. That was the one where they lost to G2, where they almost reverse swept them. So not a terrible finish there. And that was like the story of this team for the longest time of like, can they finally get a top 4 finish? They haven't had one with Fruity, and then they finally did. When they won DreamHack of Valencia down there. We'll go over the DreamHacks and then come back up to Season 8. So they won DreamHack Valencia, but their other DreamHack performances were not good at all. No other day 3 finishes. Tied for 9th at Leipzig and Montreal, and tied for 13th at Dallas. And that's a problem with Rec, where they were kind of... They would always do well, or at least well enough in the RLCS, but outside of that, not great. Now, RL Summit, they got number 2 as well, so that was good. But they tied for 7th at W3, didn't even make day 3 there either. So kind of a mixture of a year, but towards the end of the year, they were really hot. Season 8, they obviously finished 1st in Europe, and then finished tied for 9th at the World Championship. So that was the one disappointing thing, too. It's like, they're looking so strong towards the end of the year. They win DreamHack Valencia, number 2 at RL Summit, 1st in league play, or 1st in the regionals for Europe, and then they just kind of crap out with a tied for 9th at the World Championship. Didn't even make day 3. Not even did they make day 3. It was close. Actually, I think they finished tied for 7th, technically. My apologies there. But still, either way, it doesn't really matter. Not a great finish at all for the boys there. But Chaussette, one of those rare breeds. I feel like him and like Alpha, like on my list of just like, I love these guys. I just love what they bring to their teams. And we'll see what happens with Chaussette going forward in this year. As of now, no one's announced anything, but I assume that Reciprocity will be exactly the same team once again. But Chaussette, we'll see. Like if the other boys pick it up and help Chaussette a bit, these guys can definitely do some damage coming forward into 2020. Moving forward, number 3, Scrub. So, like, I personally think he was the best player on Vitality throughout the year. Like, I think this is an argument that could be had for Fairy Peak. It could be an argument to be had for KDOP. But I do think Scrub overall, to me, was the best player on this team. That they obviously have the results. Season 7 finished 1st in Europe, finished 1st at the World Championship. Scrub got the MVP there for the World Championship MVP. There's arguments to be had that it could have been KDOP. It could have been Fairy Peak as well. Season 8 with Vitality, they finished number 2 in Europe, number 2 at the World Championship, 1 goal away from winning it all once again. Then DreamHack Pro Circuit was okay. They had some good results. They had a number 2 at Leipzig. Then they didn't make day 3 at Dallas, 5th at Valencia, and 3rd at Montreal. So they basically got like all the results except for 1st. And then 7th at RL Summit, not fantastic there either. But like obviously Vitality, the number 1 team in terms of RLCS performance throughout the year, and I think Scrub was a huge proponent of that. I thought he was definitely the most consistent on his team, where it be either on defense or even trying to make plays on the offensive side. Like, I just really love what Scrub brings to teams. I feel like he also changes his role a lot when he was on Vitality, where he can adapt. Like, I think, so the last season, or season 7, a little bit more offensive heavy, and then they went to a more rotational style. And I think they did well on either one of those. I think the one problem for Vitality in Season 8, which wasn't a huge problem because obviously they got number 2 at the World Championship, was they tried for a full-on rotational style that turned a lot more into an up-and-down gameplay where there was a lot of shots on their net. But Scrub, one of the best defenders in the world too. That wasn't a huge problem. But again, I think you could argue Jknaps or Fairy Peak, but I do think Scrub overall throughout the year was the best performing player on his team. Moving forward, there's not many names left on this list, and I think people are going to start scratching their heads if it's one player per team, but let's continue. And I just spoiled it. So Jstn. We'll go over number 1. Why not? Because we're here. Turbopolsa. Technically, he was on 2 different teams this year. But he was like, it was a perfect split, and like this guy just wins. This guy just wins. Number 1, Turbopolsa. We'll come back to him in a little bit because I spoiled it on accident with my fat fingers on my arrow keys. But let's go over number 2. Jstn, his teammate right now. Season 7 with NRG. They finished first in North America League Play MVP. Finished tied for 5th at the World Championship. A little bit of a disappointing finish, but they ran into a hot Vitality. Season 8, obviously first in North America, first at the World Championship. But like people probably don't forget, but best overall DreamHack Pro Circuit team. They got 3rd in Leipzig and Montreal. They got number 2 at Valencia and 1/5 at Dallas. So they made day 3 on all of them. Made the semis at least in 3 of the 4 and made it to the grand finals in 1. Then at WSOE, they got number 2 as well. And then they won RL Summit. So fantastic results for Energy when this was a year of parity where no one could win more than one event. Like Energy was the only team who did win more than one event. Not only that, though, before they won the World Championship, they were still consistently getting top 4s, consistently getting top 3s, or making it to grand finals. There was always that problem, though, of can they win the big one? And they obviously did it. And Jstn got the overtime winner. And the reason why he's on this list and not Garrett G is exactly what Energy wants. They want to highlight Jstn on this team. They try and feed him the ball. They try and let him do what he does best and just cause havoc. And Jstn did that fantastically. I think the only downsides he's had was like a couple of bad performances when it mattered, like versus Vitality at the World Championship. I feel like he kind of just didn't do much. And then I believe it was the 5th place at Dallas where he really performed poorly. But like overall, though, he is the one that gets the job done on this team, and it was the perfect representation of that when it came to a Game 7 versus Vitality, where he gets the air dribble demo to score the first goal and then gets the overtime winner. Energy needs Jstn to get the job done, and he did it this year. He's my number 2. Could have probably been number 1. Like I thought about it, putting him over Turbopolsa, but this guy just wins, man. This guy just wins. We talk about a league of parity in 2019. Well, he was on Jknaps, and let's not forget, they won DreamHack Leipzig. Sure, not a great finish in Season 7, where they finished 5th in Europe. But Season 8, obviously, with Energy first and first. He moves across the world and just keeps winning. He just finds a way. Not only that, the best overall DreamHack Pro Circuit player. So I gave a like points thing to all the teams at DreamHack Pro Circuit. I'll actually show it here real quick. But we had to make one for Turbo. We also had to make one for Speed. Sorry if this blinds you. But let's see if I can zoom this in here a little bit. Go to 150. So, Turbo, he won Leipzig. He got 3rd at Dallas. He got 5th at Valencia, and then got another 3rd place at Montreal. No other team did that well. The only other team that was close was NRG with very similar results, but no win. But Turbopolsa, the best overall performing player at DreamHack, and this is also why Speed was on this list as well. He finished better than the likes of G2. But like energy across the board, fantastic year, and it just worked out perfectly. Bringing in Turbopolsa when they needed to win a world championship, he got the job done. And that's what Turbopolsa does. He gets the job done. And again, I think you could argue Jstn here for number 1, because of what he did. But also he like Turbo got the World Championship MVP. I feel like in that final, it started to come down to like Turbo versus Jknaps, who's going to be a 4-time. Turbo's just putting home goals, man. And again, he started this year outside of the DreamHack win. Not great with Jknaps. I felt like very disappointing season for Turbo. But man, I don't know, man. He just finds a way to win. 3 LAN wins this year. Only Garrett G and Justin have 2 LAN wins this year, and everyone else has 1. He just finds a way to win. It's like that simple. Like, I don't think he's the best player in the world, but this guy just finds ways to win. So, number 1, Turbopolsa. Top 10 players of 2019. I don't remember my top 10 for 2018, but he might have been the number 1 then too. I can't remember. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. All right. I'm going to just bust open a video here. I'm just going to go to the end. No, never mind. He didn't win. It was Jknaps that won that year. So Jknaps won last year. Let's actually look at these lists where it's a little bit different here. I'm going to show you what we had in 2018. Literally, the only player to be on my list from 2018 to 2019, Jstn. Literally the only player. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we had, so that's literally the only repeat player. And so I think that kind of just shows that what Jstn does for that team, for the carry potential on that squad, when I think other teams, you could argue a different best player from year to year or from event to event. Can't really argue that with Jstn for the most part. But that's going to do it. Top 10 players, 2019. Sorry, not a lot of videos lately. I think this video, like, I'm recording this one first. I might do other awards and they might come out before this video, so I'm not sure. But either way, sorry, not a lot of videos throughout the beginning of January and late December. You know, having a second kid who is crying a lot all the time makes it a little bit hard to get some work done. I'm actually doing this at 3 a.m. Oh, it's actually 4:30 a.m. now. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.